Hey guys, Josh Spoon, Ableton Certified Trainer with the Producer's Kitchen, and I'm here with the second part of the tip on how to get rid of reverb and room noise using a transient designer. This idea was brought forth by the Twitter account of Magnetic Sound and the book Making Sound. So let's get into this transient designer. What I'm going to be using is Transient Machines by Surreal Machines, the makers of dub machines. If you haven't heard of that, check that out. I did a video on it on my personal Josh Spoon page before I started this YouTube channel. So you could check that out. I'll have a link to it. But we're talking about transient machines. So transient machines, it's kind of the same idea as dub machines. They're taking different ideas from hardware units and combining them into two simple units. So the one that I'm going to be using is called Impact. There's one called Crack as well. You'll see on these tracks, the three tracks, I'm going to have a mix-up of the two of them. But we're going to just focus on the drums right now, and I'm going to kind of walk you through the different offerings that they have on here. So as we heard in the other video, here's the drums. I'll solo this. Cool, so drums sound really good, but let's say you want to get all that noise and everything out of there, kind of beef them up. I'm going to go to this drums track, show the device view, then I'm going to open up the browser, and inside of packs I have Transient Machines, and I'm going to go to Impact. Drop that on there. We'll let everything open. So this is how it comes out by default. You could split the bands, so you have three transient bands based off of EQ. And so I'm going to do three right here. So I have attack and sustain. And if you remember from the last video, it said that you want to increase the attack and pull back the sustain. So I'm going to kind of do that with this impact right here. You have solos for each band, so you could focus. You can see you can reset these really quickly. If you open this up, it shows you an area where you can add saturation or bypass it. You also have an EQ section, crossover for the EQ. Here's all the dials for that. And then you also have a dynamic section that allows you to do a couple of things, like set the last set of dynamic output as no processing. You can add a little bit of clipping on there. You can add a limiter so it doesn't go above a certain threshold, and you can add a maximizer as well. And we'll kind of step through those. You can set gain, all that type of stuff. So it's a pretty powerful thing. So let's stop talking. Oh yeah, pre and post, and let's see how it works. So I'm going to play these drums, and I'm going to start tweaking it. I've already done this before, so I'm kind of going off of a little model I have here off to the side, and you'll just be able to kind of see it evolve. So I'm beefing up that low end, that mids, a little bit of high, then I'm going to take the sustain all the way down. So I've just like totally pushed this thing. If you hear it before, there's a little bit of a slight pump. I could maybe come back on this, but it's pretty tight. So the next thing I'm going to do is go to the saturation. So there's three types here. There's saturating across one band. Let me make sure, yeah, so we've got saturating either in EQ, one full band, pre-crossover, or in each band. So you could set an EQ across this whole thing. You can set an EQ that sets right before the crossovers, I believe. and then the one that I use is bands. So each one has an individual saturator, and there's different consoles. Like I said, they are modeling after different transient designers, hardware transient designers and things. I don't know the specifics of which ones these are, but you get two different consoles. You get a broken circuit and a folding. So I'll just play through these. So let me see here. The info description, folding is, yeah, aggressive distortion, as I forgot. So we've got classic, aggressive, and then broken circuit is extreme, and it's going to damage your sound. What I had it on was console 2, and what did I have? About 20, yeah, that's about it, 50, and then about 45. Then I had EQ, 52 hertz, 15 boost. So I've got like a crazy boost going on here. Open the Q a little bit. So that kick is really kicking. I could put the EQ before any of the transient designing that's going on. I can have a wide crossover, so these are the crossovers here. I could set where I want the low, mid, and high to be. I can set them as wide or narrow. Lastly, the dynamics here, so I'll bring this down a little bit, 1 dB. I have it on clip. You can put it through, and it's going to clip, or at least mine's going to clip. Limit. It's pretty much flattening it. And then maximizer, tons of pumping. So if I wanted to, I could turn this down. So this is going to try to keep it at a consistent level by maximizing it. And the reason why I was messed up before is it was just over the top, so it's trying to compensate, creates pumping. So this is going to give me a consistent level, but the thing, I'm always a sucker for clip. So here's the before. If we look at the meters, so it's up 3. Let's see if I go down -4. Oh, this is the gain afterwards. So let me go down. I'll group this. So look at that. That's the peak before, peak after. Now it doesn't necessarily sound as open as it did before. It's a lot more closed off, kind of dusty old sample style, but But if that's the sound you're going for, you can go for that. You can also change the EQ a little bit so the kick's not so in your face. Bring back the attack. So it's kind of up to you, but that's the way that a transient designer works, and one like this a little bit more. Simple ones just usually have attack and sustain. They don't usually have all of this stuff, but they've combined it all from different transient designers that they enjoy and made it into one thing for you to use. One last thing that I didn't mention about transient designers is they're kind of similar to compressors. They're shaping sound with the volume, but they don't care about thresholds. They don't really have a threshold. It's just if there's a peak, it's going to either mess with the attack or the sustain. So it's not like, oh, if it's above -15, it's just looking for transients in general. So even if it's a small transient or a big transient, it's going to go after it. So that's kind of the difference between transient designers and compressors. I'm starting to use transient designers a lot more. I find them to be a lot easier to use, especially for what I'm trying to do, and try them out for yourself. Lastly, I want to share the other two tracks in here, so I'll actually just play this whole thing. Alright, cool. So we have a piano track here. I'm going to turn off crack, which is the kind of simpler version of the Transient Machines, and I'm going to turn off this impact on the bass, and then I'll play. So if you listen, you'll hear this piano is really short. It's really short. So this crack, what I did was I turned the attack down and I just turned the sustain up. So I've got 1 dB taken off of this wet signal of the transient designer, and then because this can kind of overdrive these dynamics here, and then the mix of the original signal. So you hear that those notes are extending. The sustain is opening up the volume to where it doesn't drop off. It's kind of filling out. So I'm able to get a nice long piano instead of a short kind of choppy piano. Almost the opposite of what I'm trying to do with the drums. So then if I go to the bass, very picky. So what I wanted to do was bring out some more of that pick and take out a little bit of the low end. So you can hear it's dirt and it's grit. I hope it was helpful, this run through of Transient Machines, also using some tips from making sounds. I'm Josh Spoon, Producer's Kitchen, and remember, always be creating.